A very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Research Week 2025. Thank you very much for joining for another amazing session, and we are about to start the research lounge now. So, among us researchers, AI or artificial intelligence has become the talk of the town within these recent past years. We have been discussing about its ethical use. Some people are against it, some people are for it. So we have different opinions on our own. So today's research lounge session also will focus on the emerging trends of AI for research and development, where we will be discussing the opportunities and challenges that we have as researchers. And we have an expert for this session today, all the way from University of Peradeniya. So we have Dr. Aruna Manipura joining us today. He's a chemical and environmental engineering consultant right now, and a former senior lecturer, Chemical and Engineering Department, Faculty of Engineering, University of Muratua. So, ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming the resource person for the Research Lounge, Dr. Aruna Manipura. So to handle the whole Research Lounge session, we have a moderator today. The whole research round session with Dr. Manipura will be handled by Dr. Nayani Gunawardana, Head Research Support Services Division of the Library. Over to you, Madam.
Very warm welcome to each of you. So this is Research Week Research Lunch. University of Muratua, this is 28th Research Lunch. Research Lunch is the researcher's space. So this is created to enhance the research skills of postgraduates and researchers. So this is the discussion forum in between expert and researchers. So today our theme is emerging trends of AI for research and development, challenges and opportunities. As we stand, intersection of human intelligence and artificial intelligence, so we meet today to explore how these evolving technologies can expand our capabilities as researchers, then spark new collaborations, and transform the future of knowledge creation. So, AI is not replacing researchers. AI is reshaping what it means to be a researcher. So, we'll discuss. I'm pleased to introduce our esteemed speaker, scholar, practitioner who has been at the forefront of research and innovation in chemical and environmental engineering, Dr. Aruna Manipura. Aruna Manipura was a senior lecturer attached to the Department of Chemical and Process Engineering, Faculty of Engineering at the University of Peradeniya, and currently he works at an independent chemical and environmental engineering consultant. He obtained bachelor's science degree in chemical engineering from University of Peradeniya in 1996 and master's in environmental engineering from University of Muratua 2002. He obtained his PhD in biotechnology from Tufts University, South Africa in 2007. He worked as a research associate for Asian Institute of Technology, Thailand, University of Manchester, UK, and University of Newcastle upon Tyne, UK, until 2013. He has contributed to over 50 publications, and he is currently serving as a chemical and environmental engineering consultant. So I now warmly invite to our resource person, Dr. Aruna Manipura, to share his insight with us. Dear sir, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nayani, Dean Faculty of Graduate Studies, Professor Gopura, and Academics. And dear students, our all hearts and souls should go with the people who lost their lives. I was very close to them, and still a bit of emotional. And despite that, we had to go with our lives. Therefore, it is a pretty good opportunity for me to share some of my experiences with respect to AI usage. I am not an expert, actually. I am an ardent user of AI. So the whole idea here is a couple of years back, one of the chemical engineer came out from University of Manipura, and myself, we started a little company, and that is on electrochemical storage, because you know that the country has a lot of renewable resources, but we really don't have a battery to store energy. And so what we are looking at is what business opportunities are available for us to go forward. I'm not saying that we are in a sort of like in a technology readiness level, in a higher level, but we in an early stage. What we really need a local product. That means use of local raw materials, because we have graphite, we have titanium, we have zirconium. So there are lots of minerals, and we are actually having a little basement type of research lab. So when started our work, only we realized how much AI is useful to leapfrog our research work. And that's what actually I'm sharing. Therefore, I am not an expert, but I am really looking at how useful these tools to optimize our activities. But I'm not talking about the research activities, because it's a little bit of our own territory still. But I am using sort of a general view of AI usage in academia and the research, and is it good or is it bad, or what opportunities are available, how does it look like future research. And I am a sort of a wet lab man. I used to work with chemicals and dirty hands, and therefore I love to work with chemicals and spend time in the labs probably over middle of, because my cycle was a little bit different. I work until 2 o'clock in the morning. So then I go to my place and I start to write from 2 to 5. Then I sleep in the daytime. So that is how I used to do that. And so I'm trying to share those experiences a little bit and in the background of AI. So what I'm trying to do, I know there are a lot of young people here I can see, and there are academics too. I really need to have a sort of a dialogue between you and me. How do we use this tool? Yeah, sure. Thank you. So it looks like now much better. All right. So you can hear me very clearly. So what I'm trying to do today is broadly look at what opportunities and challenges of AI are available for the research and development, especially trying to compare the traditional thinking of a research lab as such versus the emerging trends, and how do we actually have a marriage between these two without harming to anyone. So that's one aspect. All right. The second objective is how do we put these AI tools to your workflow. The idea here is, will it be helpful for me to understand the insights of my research, or is it really is the AI doing the real research and I'm just a spectator? And then there will be a lot of other issues. I know the young crowds, they are very good at, and I am not trying to teach you how to use AI. I know how, when ChatGPT version 2 or whatever, the 30th of November 2022, I believe it was released, then there was a big buzz. And after that, everybody is using, right? So what I'm not going to talk about is not the I'm not going to talk about the technicalities. What I am going to talk about, how we can make use of this opportunity, because we have missed so many buzzes, like, you know, the early stage like biotech revolution, and then the material tech, you tell anything. So we like to miss these buzzes. And is there any opportunity for us? So that's the second point. All right. Thirdly, I was so amazed when a monkey was responsible for switching off our grid. Then what I did was, all right, how can I actually, I'm not an electrical engineer, I'm a chemical engineer, but I don't know anything about I know a little bit of electrical engineering, but not to the level of grid stabilization, right? But what I know about a little bit of a system modeling. So how quickly I can model this system and see what really went behind that, whether it is really a monkey or is a sort of a monkey-human business, right? Let's see. So therefore, I take one example. I'm sure the young guys would have done so many things like this, a lot of experiments. When you feel alone, when you don't have somebody to talk, can AI have a sort of a companion, right? Like Plato-type questions, like imagine, probably you would have studied somewhere or learn about the philosophy of science, the Greek history and the Hindus, then Egyptian and Persian, Maya, Inca, and so on, how this knowledge was created and how people started to question about the nature and where the philosophy of science came, right? So I used to do that sometimes, like start with what is life? Sorry, maybe I'm stupid, I'm asking. Then it tells some answers. Then I repeatedly ask how does inorganic matter become a life? So I don't know, I'm not an expert of molecular biology, but I really try to understand these things in an enormously comfortable way than asking one of my colleagues from the other side of the river. Basically, I'm from Peradeniya, so the molecular biologists are in the other side. So, but I rather like to spend time with the AI agent to clarify these things. I was really fascinated. So that is why I want to share some of these ideas. So let's see how it goes. And finally, yes, everything should have, or may have, or would have, good and bad. And how do we use them in a responsible manner, and what can be done about it? I heard from Professor Gopura that the university, actually Faculty of Engineering, is actually planning to have a AI usage policy, which is, I think, one of the hot topics among the academics, how to distinguish whether it is AI generated or is a truly intellectual contribution by a student or a researcher, for that matter, for even the researchers in the higher level. So let's see how it goes. Right. Let's look at a little bit of early stages, right? So we were talking about Aristotle, Plato. That was the kind of era that people just observe the environment, right? They started to see something called patterns, right? The one time Ernest Rutherford said, except physicists, all other scientists are stamp collectors. You remember who is Ernest Rutherford? Sorry, I'm a chemical man. 1897, J.J. Thomson told about plum pudding model. Those who loved chemistry would remember that, right? His own student, Ernest Rutherford, challenged him, and what he realized was many of us actually do kind of stamp collecting. Why do you call it stamp collecting? Any idea? Anybody has collecting stamps as a hobby? Sorry, I used to have a sort of engage in lectures with my students because I have chemical engineering which has the smallest number of students, only 25 people at Peradeniya. So we know each and every student by name, right? So it's a kind of like you have a different experience. So therefore, I would like to have the engagement. Right, anybody has any idea? Shout at me. How do you collect? Anybody has collected stamps in your life? I'm sorry, I'm not trying to challenge it, but when we were children, we used to have hobbies like that, collecting pictures, stamps. When we collect stamps, we do different kind of things. Like one thing is country-wise, the other one is by theme-wise, like that. What do you do essentially there? Isn't that what Rutherford said? It's a pattern, it's a classification, because it helps us to reduce the complexity, right? So let's look at in the first stage. So then certainly the theoretical foundations, like probably if you look at Galileo Galilei, Copernicus, and all these people, Newton, they started to apply and develop the theoretical science, which actually led to in 1950s computational science. So what I would like to see is in this particular journey, how quickly knowledge started to gather, right? So now then the big data, because when computers were evolved, you can collect data and process, you have a lot of data. That actually led to kind of like accelerated discovery. If you have heard about the material project, and in 2024, the physics Nobel Prize and the chemistry Nobel Prize basically went to computer scientists a little bit, right? I believe chemistry went to Demis Hassabis, John Champer, the third gentleman, I don't remember. And the physics went to, who is the father of Sir Geoffrey Hinton and the other people. So if you look at that, how does that happen? And it really tells us some other story, because if you look at in parallel all civilizations and our improved understanding on mathematical foundations that led to formalize the physical phenomena, then especially the electronics and the computers in 1948, transistor followed by the ICs, and everything help us to do calculations very rapid way, right? So then data acquisition systems, which actually fed to these systems, basically like big data driven sciences, then just like any large language models. I think who is this gentleman, GitHub CEO, he once said the modern language of programming is English, rather than that actually gives us a lot of energy. Even an average person who cannot use computers now can use English to communicate with the computers. That is really nice, because some people have ideas but cannot be realized. They can't make it realized because they don't have the background, the luxury of programming. But now people can do it. So let's see this journey a little bit. And if you look at that, if you have followed this AstraZeneca vaccine development program, they don't tell it vaccine. I think they call it drug for legal reasons, because the drug development process takes about 10 to 12 years. But when there was a disaster, there was no time for bigger clinical studies. Now what you do is you you make it more rapid, and they were quite helped by, if you have watched AlphaGo, you know the story, the film from the Demis Hassabis, and how they went to Korea, South Korea, and beat the champion of that particular Go game. So that really opened up to many, many things, good things, especially in the material discovery. Right. So let's try to compare traditional research. I'm not trying to teach these things to you, but just to have the same page between you and me. So we need to have knowledge and understanding where we set objectives, goals. Then we believe, at least theoretically, the researchers are very curious, not fond of certificates, and not for the promotion. The postgraduate studies in our country, we have a problem. Many people come to certificates, not for the curiosity, because curiosity is the root cause for you to become a good scientist. If it doesn't have, and if the certificate is the driving force, you will never enjoy that science. Right. So the capability of researchers, we do about like literature review, hypothesis development. These things are quite a common vocabulary for you, right? In this exercise, we enormously depend on very manual labor. Basically, research students are laborers of supervisors, kind of, right? You may agree or disagree. There are senior academics here. They will support me or probably disagree with me, fine. On the other hand, if you look at the MPD process, a new product development process, you have very tight deadlines. You don't have much excuses because time to reach the market is the fundamental survival mechanism for new product development. If you get an idea, how quickly you can get it to the market, that is absolutely vital. You have a tight budget, not a lot of luxuries like many research labs. If you follow about NPD process, where a lot of startups, they don't have a lot of capital. They start with a seed idea and try to capitalize on it. Now my question is this. If you look at these two processes separately, and what about the traditional research approach where we really focus on intellectual development of the researcher or the supervisor's need, and we really want the student or the researcher or the person to do it, not the machine, right? On the other hand, NPD process, if you look at that, if your target is to reach the market as quickly as possible, does it matter if you have a cat made out of clay, but it really kills the mice? So how do you strike a balance between these two ends, right? So these are the things I would like you to challenge and talk about. And secondly, in a country like us, we really have lots of difficulties. Like you all experience, nobody else, I think, recently experienced such a devastated time in our country. To one side is a social issue, the other side an economic issue. On the other hand, I give some numbers to compare. I don't have this slide here. If you look at two aspects, one is actually land utilization in the country. Other one is per person contribution to the GDP, right? I said that I am a molecule man, so I would like to talk about things in concentration, right? Let's define two parameters. One is we will divide the GDP by the area of the country, right? That I will tell you per unit area how much GDP is contributing to our economy. That's one side. Secondly, we will divide the total population of the country we will divide the GDP by the total population of the country. That will tell you per capita contribution. Would you agree with that two ratios for some reason? Not necessary to be the best thing, but for the moment, right? So this is another slide. Actually, I prepared for another one, but I couldn't put it here. I just searched for it and found it. Right? If you look at Sri Lanka, this is data in 2018, right? Per capita export earnings. Sorry, this is not the GDP. I need to revise it. Export earning, right? It's not GDP. It's export earning, right? In 2018, when Sri Lanka export earning per capita was like 466 million, right? Forget about these numbers. When we do per capita export earning per like 466 million, Vietnam did 2,792. Is almost about 5.9 times. Do you know Singapore, how did they do? When we did 466, Singapore did 56,560 per capita export earnings. How that number came actually? Where we can look at how do you create the wealth, that is per capita. Let's look at the land usage. The US dollars million per square kilometer was 0.15 Sri Lanka. Let's take that as 1. When we put that number 0.15, Vietnam did 5 times of that, right? And Singapore did 2,900 times of that. My argument is, we all are struggling. Why so many people died in the Central Hills? 80% of the lands of this country belongs to the government. Only 20% belongs to the public. So that tells you another story, because I'm not talking about AI, because at the end of the day, what I want to tell you, this is out of topic, but what I want to tell you, if AI is our savior, we should go for it, right? So because I just realized that I need to discuss this, but I forgot to put it. All right. Now, in a traditional research setup, your supervisor and you have intimate, kind of like a very close contact. It's a human-human relationship, right? So this human-human interaction is very important. Does AI feel you have a problem at home? Right? And can you ask an extension for something? Right? On the other hand, your supervisor or your panel will be limited to one particular subject. Right? I know this is not the best time to have this kind of talk, but I'm sorry. This is after lunch. It's difficult to survive. Let's see how we can survive. Right? Subject matter expertise is limited to a particular field. But whereas if you look at, I'm sure all you are using ChatGPT or any other models for that, you have so many knowledge. So you have access to so much knowledge, different types of knowledge. Can you have that luxury from a one supervisor, a panel of supervisor? Sorry, I'm not actually trying to challenge our senior academics. It's not the kind of thing, because we really realize the young crowd is so good at extracting these things than us, probably. Thirdly, a few things like, if you want to brainstorm, you know, what do you call it? I'll put in singular word, navanallu rasa, taraha, sattuta, joy. All these matters in your learning process that actually trigger some of the chemicals in your body that really changes how you think about certain things. Do you have that ability with AI? Right? Because I'm a little bit actually upset in one side. If we excluded all these brick and mortar universities and schools,
what kind of world we will have it in the future. Already we are so accustomed to, so addicted to electronic devices. What kind of society we will have in the future if we so limited to piece of electronics, no human relationships? I don't know whether you feel the same way I feel it. I really felt it. Right. On the other hand, you can get the assistance from your AI model to plan, to review your literature, develop a report, analyze, draw nice charts, even design your experiments. Even if you don't know what is the design of experiments, still the AI model will deliver for you, right? The point here is certainly the productivity in terms of modern economics, whatever, if the money is everything, there will be. But the point here is where you develop your brain. So you may have heard about this. When it comes to brain, you use it or lose it, right? Why it is that? More you fire the neurons, your brain will be all right. It will be more energized, right? So therefore, this is another challenge that I want to talk about. And secondly, the other bad side of that, let's look at this. Those who are in lab setups, like experimentation, how do you feel? Go to the labs in the morning. Every day you do the repetitive tasks, washing your glassware, putting them in the drying rack, or before the early day you have to prepare for the next day experiments. Imagine, because I myself, when I was doing PhD, I had about 248 parameters because I was dealing with industrial wastewater in microbial setup. So many parameters I need to measure, and I was carrying out so many experiments within a shorter period of time in a day, and the next day I have to get it prepared every day for the next day, like that. So what I'm thinking is very time consuming, you feel tired sometimes, and it's very prone to human error, right? And traditional lab setting, we have a chat, the fun time in a lab, right? You get the gossips and you have this Saturday night, Friday night if you are in other countries, right? And so all these things will come to you. These are the things, because we are social animals and we need that interaction, right? And you're feeling about your colleagues, empathy, whatever that, depending on the circumstances. And these things will be lost if everything is done in a mechanical way. But we'll ask these questions. These are the things probably in our faculty boards or departments we talk about. Do we have a sort of a prejudice? Something like everything should be done by the human mind? Sorry, I'm asking these questions to think about it, right? Should only human generate ideas? Can the machines generate it? And can I complement with the machine, right? Why it is that? One thing is, how do you define the intellectual contribution? How you measure the ability of the student to explore new ideas, or the researcher's ability to explore ideas and interpret them, right? On the other hand, nowadays everybody is running behind targets like, what is your H index? How many citations you have? And I mean, this is general society. You find all good and the bad. If you close enoughly search your literature, you find that in a large network of researchers, there are very unusual connections. What do you think, Dr. Gopura? What do you think, madam? Haven't you seen some papers are like, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Right? So then what do we define by intellectual contribution? How do we define this intellectual contribution? Right? So these are things we really need to look at in such settings. If we get it done by AI, is it really matter? Does it really matter? And is it ethical to use AI to generate ideas for research? Then on the top of that, who creates this true knowledge? Where is the original contribution? Who guide the AI to ask? Who guide the AI systems to ask different questions to formulate a research problem or a hypothesis or whatever you name it. Right? So these are the things I really like to ask from you and think about it and how we actually judge it. Thirdly, is it truly artificial or fabricated information when we use AI? Let me put a single example. දන්නවනේ ද ගම්වල ඉන්නවා ගිරව්? නේ? ගිරව් ඉන්නේ? ගිරව් මොකද කරන්නේ? Sorry, I put it in English. So you have parrots. Some people actually they took care of them. Pettapu බත් කෑවද? කෑවා. Did Pettapu understand what it really means? Right? All right. So you may feel like, when you retire from the academia, you have plenty of time to think these things. There are no meetings, there are no faculty boards, there are no ILO settings, no Washington Accord at all. Right? Another question, cause and effect. Does causality take into account in LLMs? Right? Sorry, I believe that somebody is from computer science engineering will challenge me. Right? So how do we distinguish the contribution of those two approaches, with or without AI? Right? Fine. If AI use is ethical, what would be the role of future researcher in terms of intellectual contribution for R&D? I mean, moment you think of your former chancellor, Dr. Arthur C. Clarke, right? He predicted about different things for 100,000 years ahead of him time, right? Now, shall we think ourselves, right, with these developments, how it would look like our research lab in 5 years' time? I know it is hurting, right, to think. But if you really think about how it would look like a Sri Lankan lab, or some other country like Berkeley or MIT somewhere, or Cambridge, Oxford. Probably you may have heard about A-Lab in Berkeley, what it does, especially if you are in material science and engineering. Right? So if you look at the workflow, there are so many opportunities for us to put AI in that different stages, whether it is problem and the hypothesis or critical literature review. I remember that when we wanted to model aluminum-ion battery, my colleague and myself, we spent about 15 minutes together. Then we use Google AI Studio, then we define our requirements. We got about like 15 odd pages report with all our specifications with the references within 15 minutes. Imagine one of you, senior academics who are here, if you want to get done your literature review from your student to, your supervisor knows all the Lego bricks where it's supposed to be, and he or she is very, very uncomfortable when students deliver. The frustration, right? So now what has happened here? You get it within 15 minutes. You can take a decision. Yes, at least how to design your experiment. Then you look for the references and authenticity and all these things. Yes, it will take a bit of more time. But at least there is something to start for you, right? On the other hand, if you look at the other side, the enormous ability of, because we all talk about with each other, we understand certain things, and thanks to our 5 senses. But if you look at that, I suppose to stop. Think about this. AI systems have so many sensors, right? Not only your visual, text, and audio. Imagine that you are running a reactor where you measure the pH, temperature, and optical density to assess the number of microbial population, the amount of microbes, and so many sensors are there. How much it can really feel about it, right? So amount of knowledge that can develop is enormous. Finally, I'll quickly go to these slides. If you go to a lab, if I had to spend so many hours in my lab, that is now done by a sort of autonomous laboratory. Even after that, imagine the next option. What I used to do in the lab is done by a robot. Probably the computer engineering, electrical engineering, mechanical engineering people would love to see this. I like to work with molecules. That would be my role here, right? So the opportunities are available in the other side, one side. On the other hand, in a traditional research setup, it will be questioned a lot how we will survive in such situation. I'm not going to do this experiment a lot because of the time, but I know there are many different strategies to do the prompt engineering. This is what I used to do because it's all about how you communicate with your machine, with your AI system, how you define, because garbage in, garbage out. So therefore, your ability to master how to communicate with LLMs will determine how successfully you can put AI or LLMs into your workflow. So number one is then, I think the number one skill that you have to improve is communication, right? I put the context generally, then I give some references, finally I evaluate, and then I iterate, because I am not going to stop in a one prompt, I am going to refine it. So I am sure all of you do that. If you don't pay to any commercial, LLMs, you have a certain amount of allocated tokens per day or a particular period. Then what do? You switch between different engines, right? LLMs, right? So then because you are desperate to get the results, so you can switch between DeepSeek, ChatGPT, Google AI Studio, whatever the product available to you. So that helps us to refine our prompt even better. So if I have to assess the skills in future researcher, this is not in the same order. I'll stop in another 5 minutes. I'll quickly go through this one. Number one is critical thinking, you would see. And because if you don't have the critical thinking, you cannot really achieve what you want, isn't it? I don't know. There are a lot of academics, you would argue. If you don't have creativity, can you generate new ideas? That's the place where we cannot distinguish whether the machine develop, is it human develop, and why do we give a degree to a person, right? Then the creativity. Certainly the creativity helps us to concept generation, then model building, and all this happens in the presence of communication. And finally, even with an AI model, we have to collaborate to get the maximum out of it, right? So therefore, these soft skills is really needed for a researcher, or for that matter, any academic, or any learner. These things are quite vital skills. So now I wonder, in our Washington Accord, we set up ILOs and we use Bloom's taxonomy. How far we go in the Bloom's taxonomy? I hope that everyone knows Bloom's taxonomy. And if you, I'm not actually, this is like, what do you call it? Are Siuru are Puhamuduru Sasane criticize Karani? The Mama Siuru are line academia, right? So imagine in our system, because I did this study because I was working at Newcastle University before I joined at Peradeniya. I did an analysis on how assessment schemes happens in Newcastle. Once I actually entered Peradeniya, I did the same thing for my department. The big difference what I observed from Newcastle and Peradeniya, I find that in the lowest level of Bloom's taxonomy, that sort of questions asked even at final year. Right? Define, explain. Right? When you go to the industry, your boss will not ask, define, explain, give me a decision, whether it is good or bad. Right? On the other hand, this is the second point, because all we are learning and we want to improve ourselves. Continuous assessment gradually increased in Newcastle. The final exams was only account for 30%. 70% come from continuous problem-based learning, design problems, real problems, industry problems. Whereas our system, you know how much we fight in the faculty board. If you come up with, sorry, I'm asking from you guys, you people, right? I was tired. Then now you can ask your question back. Why we don't have many startups around our universities? The Cambridge University, around there are about 30,000 startups. You can search it yourself. And those startups are like 1 or 2%. They create wealth of about 3 to 5 sterling pounds, 3 to 5 billion sterling pounds. Imagine the wealth creation. Imagine the wealth. So if you go to MIT, the story is more different, right? So there is a fundamental issue with the way we assess things, in my point of view, what we appreciate, and what students expect. If you really want to have a certificate, you can go to Coursera. You can go to edX. You don't have to come to university. Right? On the other hand, Morito is lucky. I was a student here in 2001, under Professor Ajit Alvis and Professor Malik Rana Singh. I really enjoyed my postgraduate time at Morito. Right? We didn't have access to 24-hour labs at that time, but we really enjoyed that time. What I'm asking is now, so I don't really demonstrate this model, but I will try to show you what I did. I recall just George Box's statement, all models are wrong, but some are useful. It doesn't matter whether your model is right or wrong, we just have to build it. So you remember that I was talking about the persona when I communicate with my AI model. When the monkey did that bad thing to the government, I did this for my understanding. Right? And what happened was I wanted to look at that. I thought that, right, I treated the Gemini, I don't remember the version at that time, as I gave that persona, then I look at the energy mix in the country, then I wanted to see when the system will be, when the solar PV increases and when the demand goes up, right? So you can do it yourself. I just wanted to show you how I enjoyed AI myself. And basically my approach is when I do model building with the AI, whether it is electrochemistry or any other phenomena, I first do a sort of a detailed literature review with AI, right? Then I develop a kind of a word model. It's like plain English, word model, nothing mathematics, simple word models. Then I convert those word models with the help of AI for the first principle model, so that you have a sort of a mechanistic model, first principle model. Then you can play. I'm not good at programming, but then I give that to a certain extent I can handle. Then I give it to the simulation, maybe Python codes, or primarily I use Python codes for that matter. Then I play with that. I don't know how you do that. So I would like to hear from you, right? Right. Simple model I started with, like hydro, there is a mistake there. So basically I put the energy, supply agents, then I was looking at the demand side agents, then I wanted to look at how they interact, and when they interact, which really triggers the tripping, right? So I don't think I will be able to go to internet here. I don't think it will come here. Sorry, unfortunately, I can't show you the model. Is there any way to show this model? No. I can see it, but I can't show it to you. Why? Fine. At least you can play once you go home, right? Another one is, I use LLM Studio. I told that I'm not an expert. I'm an ardent user of AI for my selfish needs. And when I don't want to pay, I use this one because I can play so many open source models with LLM Studio. So there is no restriction. So you can, if you are interested, play with that because this is a limited time, so I have to stop here. Let me wind up what I am doing a little bit, when you run a startup, you need master of all trades, many skills, from fabrication to laboratory work, experimental design, because you have a very limited capital, right? And in such scenarios, certainly these large language models help you to sort out so many technical barriers, right? And luckily, you know, a lot of these additive manufacturing techniques helps you to rapidly prototype. I'm sure all you know, all you have been exposed to these things. We use a lot of open source hardware and software in our startup because we cannot afford commercial products. This is not our lab actually. This is I used to because I couldn't get any pictures from our lab. This is a molecular lab. Under $500, you can set up a state-of-the-art molecular lab. Play with the microbes. You don't need a lot of money to start. So now my question is, all right, AI can help you a lot, and it's like there are goods and bads, so we have to distinguish that. But at the same time, because you can easily interface with large language models, most of these open source software, you can have these self-driving labs in a small scale that will cut down your capital and operation cost. And if I get an opportunity, I'll show you our work in some other time. Because don't be afraid to build stuff, test stuff. Sri Lanka needs a lot of new stuff. You go to eBay, you go to Amazon, you see the range of products coming to the market, what Chinese people are doing. If you go to Shanghai, you will see there are lots of makeup, what you call these maker organizations. I think there is a little bit of happening in Sri Lanka even, but not to the level what is going on in China. All right. Having said that, all these things, when you use AI models, certain hallucinations is one of the biggest challenge we all see. It looks like true, but it's not really true, right? So that is the place I believe that the human expertise, your ability to read, understand, and extract information cannot be simply replaced by AI models, because your subject matter knowledge really matters to distinguish between what the AI system created for you and whether it is right or wrong. Secondly, integrity. Integrity, it comes in a number of ways. You know the fun that you get when you solve a problem yourself. This is especially true when you are doing your advanced level. Recall you solve an applied mathematics. I don't know whether you call it applied mathematics now. It's combined mathematics, let's say. Right? So we were doing applied mathematics and pure mathematics at that time. When you solve a hard problem, the joy that you get, you did it yourself. You remember that? On the other hand, if it is what you call exam oriented, certificate oriented, you simply need a piece of certificate. There are many doctors and, you know, what I mean, who cannot produce their certificate, right? So what I'm asking is now, integrity is somewhat like, let me put this way again. So don't ask me what is good karma, bad karma, but I'm just putting in a layman's language, hopefully that you can realize what I said, right? Don't do anything bad, even secretly, right? Then the data privacy, Yes, when you use some of these public domain models, and if you run like your own stuff, do you want to share that information, and how much you will be exposed? Even now, we are naked in the internet, don't we? What do you think? Right. Imagine that you are developing a cutting edge product, and do you want it to be leaked? Right. So that is another area. So data privacy. Certainly cost of these models, somebody else is actually training, and we try to use the free. But if you really want to put a large scale projects, then certainly, and you know how hard for you to run some of the models locally. If you happen to use a LM Studio, you need at least maybe, I'm using about 32 GB RAM. They recommend about 96 gigabytes. But how many of us have luxury to run such a large computing power, probably even to run a small LLM? And the security, if somebody is mismanaged, if somebody is attacked your large language model to train in a different way, prompt injection, where you actually change the original weightings, and then that can actually kind of like the virus or whatever, it doesn't produce what you want, but it will produce something else. So anyway, so these are some of the ideas that I want to talk about. AI can play an important role in R&D, especially in a resource constrained environment. But a careful use of AI helps at various stages of research and development, from literature review to interpretation, and increasing accuracies and various types of elements can help you to leapfrog from idea to prototype. Finally, more importantly for me, how do you define your originality? Right. So I really encourage you to go through this book if you are interested on physics-informed model building. Steve Brinton from New York University, I believe. Some of you may have used it. Really fun book. Play with that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I would like to open the floor for questions. Can I have a question from you, sir?
Sure. Right.
Okay, then, if you could give one piece of advice to our researchers navigating AI adoption, what would be it, sir?
One piece of word. All right. Number one, communication. For me, the most important skills is communication, because you may be doing materials, you may be doing computer engineering, you may be doing mechanical, electrical, whatever the domain that you're dealing with. You really have to have it. But if I want to use AI, your ability to communicate with the system will decide what you produce. Simply garbage in, garbage out. Right.
Okay, sir. So then as we conclude today's session, so one message stand out clearly. This AI is not replacing researchers. Am I correct, sir?
Certainly.
Yeah. Is it expanding the frontiers of what research can achieve? Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So thank you so much for your valuable contributions, sir, especially with the current situation. So we are very grateful to you, your time and everything. So, and thank you so much, our audience as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was the conclusion of another amazing session, and we again thank Dr. Aruna Manipura for that amazing session, and going beyond a normal AI session and explaining what we could do with AI and where to use it exactly. So to pay our gratitude and appreciation towards our resource person. Now I would like to invite once again Professor Aruna Manipura, Dean Faculty of Graduate Studies, to present the token of appreciation to our resource person. Dear sir, would you mind joining us on stage to accept our humble token of appreciation? We really appreciate and admire your presence here. Ladies and gentlemen, shall we give a good round of applause? So the session was totally moderated by Dr. Nayani Gunawardana. So to appreciate her contribution towards this session, handling and organizing and everything, Dr. Nayani, please accept our small token of appreciation from Gopura sir. Let's give another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. So with that, we conclude the research lounge session. And once again, I appreciate the presence of Dr. Aruna Manipura. I think I pronounced it earlier wrongly. I said Anura or something. Very sorry about that, sir. Once again, coming all the way from Peradeniya and being here amid all the challenges, we really appreciate it and admire it. And we really enjoyed the session. We learned a lot. Thank you very much for coming to University of Moratuwa once again, sir.